recently I've observed something to do with a diet which relates to a specific food group that may seem small and insignificant to me, but may actually be very useful information for some people. So that's why I'm making this video, to relate something that I've observed onto you. Now, the context for this sort of experience that I've had a couple times is I like to eat a lot of food because I have quite a fast metabolism. I'm trying to bulk up, gain strength, gain muscle, and do all that sort of stuff that generically happens when you were sort of starting off, or at some kind of point in the first 2-3 years of your fitness journey. You decide to try to bulk, to build strength and muscle, especially if you're starting off skinny like I am, and like many other people are, and I'm sure there are many people watching that can sort of relate to that experience. My sort of eating journey, where I've started to actually eat a lot more and not be fussy with the sort of food portions and food that I eat. Like, the reason that I was so skinny is because I used to just not eat enough food, and I started to actually eat an adequate / probably slightly more calorie surplus than I needed to about a year and 6 months ago, 18 months ago. And since then I have gained weight, probably somewhere around 15 to 20 in that region kilograms since then. I did used to be quite skinny, emaciated, even though it may seem like it would be impossible for me to have gained 15 kilograms, as I'm not like insanely big realistically, but I hope to kind of still progress to that stage one day. But I eat a lot of food, essentially. And so I have a breakfast, I have a sandwich at around 11 o'clock, that's that sort of hour. Then I'll have a lunch at maybe school or something, or maybe it's on a weekend, I'll have lunch. Then I will have dinner, then I will have some porridge in the evening. Now, this sort of story is to do with the lunch that I had on a couple of occasions. Sometimes I just feel too full, I feel too bloated, and I'm like, there's no point in having some actual kind of food that contains a lot of carbs, because that's only going to bloat me more. Not really carbs, because this story is to do with carbs, but the sort of complex carbs, you know, like rices and pastas. You may have heard that rice and stuff expands in your stomach, and starchy stuff, it all sort of can make you bloat a little bit because it carries quite a lot of water weight. Now, during this one particular lunchtime, instead of having some, like maybe like a little bit of a meal or some kind of wrap or something, I decided to have 1 banana and 2 apples. I'd already had an apple this morning, so that would be 3 apples in total for the whole day, which is quite a lot of fruit. And there's not exactly a huge amount of variety, so I was sort of stuck with that. And I'm fine with it. Like, I like fruit, it's very nice tasting, and I've been assured by research that I've done that it is actually good for you. One thing that a lot of people that promote meat eating to an excessive level say that plants and fruit are like not the best option for you because they contain certain plant defense chemicals, which to a certain extent makes sense. You can't eat every single leaf that exists on the planet, every single sort of vegetable that exists, something that could be biologically defined as a vegetable. But a lot of fruits are edible because the way that they actually transport their seeds is through human ingestion. In the wild, when you would have picked some fruit and ate it, you would have not had any toilets that you could excrete your waste into or ingest your waste into. You would just have to do it on the floor and live with it, and that sort of manure would be good fertilizer to actually help the seeds that are in your like feces grow. So that's how that sort of biological cycle works, and that applies to a lot of living organisms. So the plant will know this, and it will have developed itself through evolution to taste nice. And a lot of foods, because they're grown on like different parts of the planet, they taste in completely different ways due to different chemicals being able to have been processed and made by a wide variety of like different enzymes and stuff like that. And so these fruits and stuff, they taste nice. They contain fructose, the sweetest sugar to possibly exist chemically, so that humans and animals in general eat it, and it activates certain dopamine receptors and stuff in our brain to make us want to eat more. And they wouldn't want us to, the fruit, even though it's not completely selfish, like it wouldn't be poisonous long term, like a lot of processed sugar and stuff is, where if you eat too much of it, you're gonna kind of, it's not gonna be good for you, or like you're gonna become a bit more obese, insulin resistance, stuff like that. Fruit doesn't cause insulin resistance unless you're gonna eat an excessive amount, more than 3 apples and a banana in a single day. So my story isn't related to the fact that I suddenly developed insulin resistance or anything like that. But you take something like a kiwi or a grape, where you've got the seeds inside the fruit and they are totally edible, there are no issues or whatsoever, and you will eat them, you will ingest them, and in a wild scenario, it will be good manure for it to grow in. And even though it may not specifically have been designed, a kiwi may not have been designed for humans to actually eat. It may have been designed for cows or something to eat, or some sort of wildlife animal. But because humans have sort of evolved to be more conscious and understand how these things work, we decide to eat it because it tastes nice and we know of the nutritional benefits that it actually contains. But my story, when I ate these 2 apples and 1 banana, I did become quite tired. What some sugars do is it has some sort of productivity effect. The reason that I think this might be helpful to you is that I don't recommend eating the kind of amount of fruit that I did in a short period of time if you want to be productive. Carbohydrates are really not the best thing for your brain power, and as much as like sugar and stuff, it can make you more obese and gain more weight and all that fast food and stuff like that. But even though it's like, oh, as long as you stay in a calorie deficit, you're going to be fine, it's not always the case, because it still affects other parts of your body, such as your brain power. And I noticed this when I ate 2 apples and a banana. I became incredibly tired, and I've felt this experience before with general sugary sort of snacks. I remember one day, sort of at the start of summer, I went out for a meal with my friends after going to an open day at a college, and I had some sort of milkshake. And I remember on the bus home, I nearly fell asleep because I had such a potent sugar crash. And that's what this stuff does to you. It screws with the brain. It's partly to do with blood sugar as well. When your blood sugar spikes and then crashes, if it's not sort of at the level where it needs to be, you're going to feel more tired because there's not enough glucose to power your muscular and cellular processes. So that has something to do with it as well. But having this amount of fructose means that when the fructose is converted to glucose in the liver, then released back into the bloodstream as glucose, even though fruits, glycemic index, GMI, I'm pretty sure that's the sort of abbreviation for it, still it's low. But when you have that much fruit, it's still going to cause some sort of noticeable spike in blood sugar that's more than when you would just have these kind of fruits spaced out across the day. So one thing that I can recommend, and you can take from this, is if you're going to have fruits, space it out across the day, unlike what I did. And if you are quite big on productivity and you are very sort of grind-based and work-based at the moment, rather than maybe like fitness or health or spiritual or anything like that, then I'd recommend not having high amounts of fruit at any specific time, because that can cause these sort of sugar crashes and brain sort of weird things and stuff, especially if you don't eat enough, especially if you don't eat a lot of processed sugar, because you'll be quite sensitive to the sugar spikes because your body's not insulin desensitized. But with that, that's about all I want to talk about, and I recommend subscribing for more content like this, and have a good day.